you mentioned a little bit on Reddit and Product Hunt. So how successful has that been for you? First of all, it's hard to get through the noise there. And secondly, how durable is the impact of those actions?
I spent around like 3 to 5 months trying to crack Reddit, Hacker News. On 2 of them, I would say I was quite successful. So on Indie Hackers, 4 or 5 of my articles got on the main page, like lots of likes, lots of comments, but no sales.
How do you sort of get basically the knowledge about the market, about people and what's happening and so on?
At the beginning, when we had nothing, I was following quite closely around 5 to 10 different bootstrappers, indie hackers on Twitter. I like that they have this indie hacking community. They have this approach of like sharing everything, like their go-to-market, trial and errors. I just loved like reading it.
The Cloud Frontier podcast is brought to you by SimplyBlock. In this bi-weekly podcast, we explore cloud infrastructure startups, founder journeys, and discuss cutting-edge cloud technologies. Join us as we uncover the latest innovations shaping the future of cloud computing. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Cloud Frontier podcast. Today's guest is Russ Halilov from BlueDot, one of the co-founders of the company. Welcome, Russ, to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting, Rob. Really appreciate it.
Great having you. All right, so as usual, we're starting with figuring out what does your company do. So tell us a little bit more about your company, BlueDot, and your origin story and your background. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so BlueDot is the AI note-taker that records a meetings without bots joining the calls. So we started building BlueDot around 2 years ago out of basically our own challenge that we had back then, because most of my background is in recruitment and sales. My co-founder, Dima, most of his background is in product and design. And we kind of like around 5 years ago, we both quit our jobs and started our first business, which was a recruitment agency. So we were hiring engineers across companies, mostly startups in Berlin. And at some point, we had around 15 consultants working at the company, and always had the challenge with like documenting information during the client calls, during the interviews with candidates. And the tools back then on the market were not really solving the problem. And I mean, there was no open AI, like LLMs were not that good with summarizing. So we kind of like wanted to find something that can at least like transcribe well and document information. We started looking for tools. Most of the tools were kind of using the external bots, and we decided, okay, let's try to build something on our own. And we the agency wasn't doing well, we just focused on the software, started iterating. First, we invested our own money, so Bootstrap, and then then the first prototype. Second, it's a long story, but right now we have the Chrome extension that can easily record your meeting, give you a very detailed summary, then update your CRM, can write emails for you. So there are lots of things to unpack in terms of product.
Generally the businesses that sort of get originated out of another business are sort of the best ones, right? Because you sort of experience the problems firsthand, and then you sort of go into solving it. What fascinates me is like you are doing a completely different thing, right? So you are doing an agency that was, as you said, a recruitment agency for developers, and now you're actually building sort of an infrastructure product, right? Or at least a tool that works along some sort of infrastructure layer. So how's that shift? How did it happen? How is it going?
The shift from agency business to the software business, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when we started agency first, it was all about, hey, let's make more money, because I was working as a full-time employee actually at N26. It's a mobile bank in Berlin, and my co-founder was working as a product manager. And it's at some point we realized that there is a certain ceiling in terms of salary, how much you can grow, and we just wanted to have a better lifestyle and make have our business. So we realized at some point that agency business can bring good revenues, and there are lots of agencies, super competitive. I guess you as a founder experience it. You get lots of messages.
Yeah, I do get a lot of emails and requests.
Yeah. And that's how it all started. So we kind of quit our jobs, starting doing agency business. But after a year of agency business, we realized that it's very hard to scale. you don't really build anything. Even if you build the team, like you hire people, they work, they leave. When they leave with their client. It's really hard to make a big agency that is scalable. So once we realized that, and we started thinking, okay, like software, and we always before like was thinking about starting a software business, but agency is just easier. It's easier to immediately see the results. You sell the candidate, you get like 10, 15, 20K, you're like, damn, like that's so easy, let's continue doing that. And yeah, and so basically we started looking for ideas, like all the first time let's say founders, like I don't know if all, but like many from what I heard, like we had this huge spreadsheet with like ideas, what could we do, because we didn't have any kind of insight as well. So we were like trying to find this next unicorn idea, looking at which startups like got funded. It was just interesting. Like I think like around half a year we were really like afraid to start doing something, because like there's agency that brings you money, and there's this unknown territory, like, and you don't know what to start, which idea has the best outcome. And we like played around, honestly speaking, like for a year, trying to come up with different ideas. We were testing like hypotheses, we were building like these landing pages, we were doing so much to start something, and didn't really start anything. And then when it actually like the agency business started going down, we it was actually like after COVID as well, and we realized that okay, there's not much hiring going on, and it's basically yeah, like we realized that we need to do something else. It was like more already must have to start something else. So we started looking for ideas that could be real, like the ones that we have, like any problem that we can solve. It can be small, it doesn't have to be like a huge thing.
So,
And
so
that's
at
how
first you
we,
were just researching ideas like
yeah,
sort of unrelated to what you've been doing, but then you sort of like
unrelated.
went into
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey, what pain points we're actually experiencing ourselves.
yeah, yeah. And the note taking part was something, and of course there were already some tools on the market. That's when we started investigating. We realized that all of them use this external bots, and that's how it kind of started evolving into what we have right now.
And that's really cool, and I also like that part that you sort of spend a lot of time figuring out what's the right thing to do, because then a lot of first time founders would sort of be rushed into doing something, right? Because they want to do something, they want to have a startup, so let's just like pick the first idea and sort of go with it, right? And sometimes it works, and I'm also a big believer that you can make a lot of things work, like with determination, with tenacity and so on. But eventually I think the market you're in, the game you're in, determines the most of the potential outcome, right? So I think it's really cool that you sort of spend time on it. But then how do you see it now? So do you feel like you chose the right game to play? Like how has it been in terms of getting it off the ground and scaling and obviously competing, because there are tools out there as well, right? That obviously, as you said, they maybe have bots and other features,
There are
or not.
hundreds.
But yeah,
There are hundreds, honestly.
yeah.
Like it's before a year ago, when I would see a competitor, I would be like kind of scared or irritated. Now it's just funny, like how many note takers are there. Um, yeah, like I would say that when we first started, that's another thing, right? Like we realized that there is problem with the documenting information, with recording, but we part of the story is that we got into accelerator. It's called On Deck. It's actually shut down, but when we joined, it was like super hyped. And we came first with initial idea, but they were like forcing us or like pushing us, hey, it has to be like this $1 billion idea, it has to be something amazing. And it's like all VCs want you this, and they were telling, hey, if you want to raise after demo day, it has to be something huge. And we were like iterating. And then we saw one competitor, I'm not gonna say the name, but like one company back then that raised from A16Z, like recording as well, all that, like San Francisco, cool founders. And we just decided, okay, let's just do kind of similar what they do with a little bit of twist, and try to raise money on that. And their approach was fully enterprise, so top down, big checks. And we thought, okay, so companies record meetings. We can basically, the idea is that companies record meetings, they are remote, and we aggregate all the meetings in one place, like do transcription, make it easy to find information. But again, top down, no product led growth. So I would have to do the demo, and I like that's how we started. And so we didn't raise money after the after the demo day, we still continued doing this similar way of what we already committed to, what we saw as something that's working for other guys. But I couldn't sell anything. Like I had so many people on the waiting list. I had so many demo calls, so much outreach. Like I was reaching out to basically engineering leaders or like overall management leaders in companies that have remote employees. Like some would agree to go to the demo call, a research call. They would say, "Hey, this looks cool. Like I would definitely try it." And once we had something, they would be like, "Hey, there's not enough of this, not enough of this," and like all the time they would postpone. We didn't feel any progress. It was like so frustrating. I felt like shit all the time because I was like, damn, I'm bad. And like, what is that? That's probably
Oh, wow.
from my iPhone. Yeah, that's a very weird feature
Ah.
that they introduced. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
So
interesting. Yeah, first time I saw.
yeah,
For
and
those
yeah,
people just listening, there were fireworks that
yeah,
came
there's a
after the S word behind
yeah,
Rust. So quite a feature.
yeah, and yeah, like I try to read all the books, like watching different trainings on sales, how to do sales, because I honestly I thought like I'm really bad in sales and that's it, like I can't sell that, I'm bad. But then when I don't remember how exactly, but at some point we kind of started building this extension to allow people to easily start using the tool through extension without bots, because initially it was designed for Zoom. And when we had the extension, we realized that the flow is very easy. So people can easily try without me doing the demo. So we started outreaching people, giving them the tool to try. People started trying. And then we saw that people continue using the product. So that's when we introduced the paywall and started charging. And once we got the first payment, second payment, like then we got it, like it works, people are ready to pay. It should be different approach, different go to market. We changed our landing page, like go to market, now it's product led. I still do the demo calls, I sell the product, but after people try the tool, right, I do the demo call, I try to offer the team plan, and the like conversations are completely different. Like I'm the same person. I haven't learned anything else. Like maybe I learned something, but not that much. But it's already selling itself.
I think it's a very important lesson because eventually sometimes you feel like, yeah, you might be doing something wrong, but if you're trying very hard, even if you're the worst seller in the world, if you cannot sell even to one customer, there is a big chance that there's something else wrong, right? That maybe your whole approach or go to market strategy is wrong, right? And I think a lot of founders feel that as well, right? But like it's not always very obvious, like what are you doing wrong, or like what can you change to make it happen, right? And for some it just doesn't happen. So I think this is actually quite an interesting thing to sort of zoom into, right? So how did you actually make that sort of change, right? How did it happen? Did it really happen so smoothly and organically, or was it like a lot of discussions, a lot of trial and errors as well? And what would be the advice here for others maybe struggling with that kind of things?
So uh, honestly, like I wouldn't say that it came from user research or from some insight. Like I would just continue like trying to sell the tool the same way like I used to, but because we introduced this Chrome extension, it was just easier for people to try. Because before, okay, so maybe this is where the insight is coming from. Before we built this Zoom native integration, we spent so much time trying to get listed on their marketplace, to get through all the security reviews, and we thought like it's going to be amazing. Like we have the Zoom integration, companies are going to love it. But then at some point when people like didn't like they would say, hey, send me, I will try. I send to them, and then they're like ghosting me or like not replying, or it takes too much time. We realized that like in order to connect Zoom, they would have to go to admins or to someone like higher up in the company to ask for this. And usually, like managers would tell them, "Hey, what is this tool?" Like they wouldn't trust and they wouldn't connect their Zoom account. And it's like, or it would take so much time. Or if one person starts using it, then if another one wants to try it, another person has to go and ask for permission to connect their Zoom. Like it's too much friction. And with extension, there is no friction. And it's not like we learned it through user research or something. It's just like we got this extension, we gave people to try, they started using it, and just like started growing. So it came naturally, but it came because we continued like building and trying and like giving people product to try.
That makes a lot of sense. And generally, the earlier you can hand out something to the user, I think that the quicker you're gonna get also the feedback whether it works or not, right? Because I think the longer you sort of wait before the user tries it, or the more friction there is in between that process, the higher the risk simply, right? So that's why this concept of MVP is so important. But I think in your case, it was just really like a different approach, right? That sort of worked out.
Yeah. So unfortunately, no like really big insight like, hey, do 100 user research interviews and you will get it.
Right,
Like
right.
it didn't come
But
this way.
but I think the insight here is like keep trying, right? If something just
Keep
doesn't
trying.
feel right, if like your
Yeah.
gut feeling is that like this shouldn't be like that, it should be so hard, right? Or like it's like just too many steps. I mean, figure they're just thinking, how to cut those steps, right? Like how to change the approach so there's fewer steps, or like you target a different audience, different user, right? Or just get anything. I think that's the insight. But yeah. Anyways, I think that's the most important thing is that it worked, all right? And so maybe let's zoom a little bit more now, like what happened afterwards. So then you got a first traction, and what happened? Like, did you sort of say, okay, let's go big on this now, like let's fundraise, like how that developed?
Yeah. So we started getting like first early adopters who paid for the product. We were not live, so we didn't launch. Like all the users we had on our waiting list were through outreach on like LinkedIn, selecting people and so on. We had like I don't know, like 30 Slack channels with people like in Slack Connect thing. And once we got a few payments, then we closed one more for a team plan. We were like, okay, so people are ready to pay, people are using it every day. And because my co-founder and CEO Dima, he's basically has more design and product background. He completely redesigned the landing page. It was actually quite hard to make the decision because imagine like we built so many features for this like enterprise version of BlueDot with Zoom and other stuff. It was called Twis actually back then, and we had all of that, and then we just made this super bold move that we positioned ourselves as the basically Chrome extension for like note taker for Google Meet, the best note taker for Google Meet. So it's like very specific, very niche, and it felt like maybe this won't work, but we just went all in, and it worked out. So once we we basically published on Product Hunt, we started getting featured in different newsletters. We saw that it resonates with people. So everyone who's using Google Meet in 90% of the time, and there are lots of people like that, they got interested because they saw that it's specifically for Google Meet. And we started getting like customers, people started paying. As I said, we don't have freemium, so it's like free trial up to 5 recordings. So people have to pay, and that's why at the beginning we actually had up to 10 recordings. But then one of our customers, cool dude from Netherlands, he's like, hey, why do you give it for free for 10? Like give it up to 5 because like you can make more money faster. And we're like, damn, let's do that. And we saw that actually like people usually, if they're interested, they buy after 2, 3, 4 recordings. They already want to buy. And now we're growing. So that's it works.
Congrats! That's a great great news. I mean, overall, that things are working out. And I'm wondering though is like it's as you said, it's a very narrow product, so you really like narrow that ICP, and I think this is good because the sort of the earlier you are, the narrower the ICP, the higher the chance that you can sort of really penetrate that segment and be sort of a champion or a winner in that category, right? But what's next then, right? Like what is next? Like do you plan to also go into other video meeting tools, or do you plan to launch some new products or features? Like how do you think about scaling the whole company from that good start?
Yeah, good question. So definitely we're gonna support other platforms like Team. Like now we support Teams in the browser, then like Zoom, and we actually gonna introduce bot as well. Because funny enough, there is a certain category of customers who want to have bot, for the reason that they want some meetings to be recorded automatically, or they want to send the bot for the meeting that they don't want to join. So there are like lots of use cases that we uncovered. So that's for sure, but that's definitely not the vision, just like the product, necessity to introduce this. But with regards to the vision, I think there are two directions, and I wouldn't say that we've decided which one will go. So one of them is like just keep general product, support as many platforms as possible. Can be like your phone, can be your WhatsApp chats, like whatever, wherever you have communication with people, we can transcribe it, summarize, and then push to the products that you use. We can do lots of integrations with the tools you already use, like Notion, Create, tasks. So there is like a whole way that like probably would take like another 2-3 years to really perfect it. And then another direction is to basically focus on one niche. Can be like sales, recruitment. There are so many niches, but these are like the most obvious ones, and just like perfect them, like charge more, do more specific integrations, and both have kind of like both options make sense. We're just not sure which one will go.
But generally, I think what people would think at first, like, oh, it's a simple product, right? Like it's just like a bot that records meetings and takes notes using AI. But eventually, it can really become a sort of like a hub for all of your sort of meeting information, or all of your intel on sales, on all kinds of discussions that you have internally, externally, right? And as you said, you can keep integrating it into other tools, and probably just sort of enriching the data further and further, right? And eventually the data is an asset itself, right? So it could become a really valuable tool for many companies, right?
Absolutely. I mean, like, look, if we look at the sales niche, like there's Gong. I think they're like they're making 100 million in ARR, like they're doing lots of money in ARR, and just by being like this perfect. It's not only a note taking. Of course, they added lots of different features on top. But again, that's about the niche, right? You can add these features for recruitment or for sales, and then there are like more general tools that are having like very high ARR. So I think. Yeah, like there is lots of potential, and being a very good note taker, you're already like solving a problem for people, and people are ready to pay for that. And there are so many people who have meetings online. So yeah, definitely the market is huge, but there are lots of competition. So
oh, for sure. I mean, I experienced the pain myself, right? Because sometimes you just get stuck taking notes in a meeting instead of like focusing on the meeting itself, right? Or trying to actually sell, or convince the customer, or catch this sort of little moment, right, where you sort of can like swoop in with some good insight, or response, and other you just spend time like taking meetings, right? And I think and another thing is, obviously after the meeting, then you sort of go back a couple of days later, you forgot half of it, and someone else from your team tells you like story about something that happened in a meeting that you didn't even like register. And yeah, I think there is a value, right? But I think there's always a question how to sort of make it more than just like a little tool, and make it actually a big sort of product with variety of different categories and products within it, right? And the product suite that sort of gets it really big, right? And how do you think about fundraising in that case? How do you generally think about financing of the company? Because you mentioned you started bootstrapped. Like, how did it evolve from there?
yeah, we started Bootstrap, then we raised from angels, from first actually some random people we met at the Web Summit, and then turned out that they're angel investing, and they invested. Then we got angel investment from our personal network. Then they introduced us to their friends. So in the kind of span of 2 years since we started building BlueDot, what you see right now, basically we raised from multiple angels. Then of course, we were in the accelerator, and we got non-dilutive funding as well from Google for Startups. So we've raised some money, not that much. We don't have the push right now to raise because we are profitable. We're like 1 month from being profitable. It's like very close. But depends how you define profitability, because each time we get this number, we start spending a bit more. But yeah, we are growing double digit. We are really in a good position where I think we'll just decide when we want to raise. And a lot of our competitors are raising like $10-20 million, which is cool. I still don't understand why some of them are raising, because I don't see exactly how they're gonna I can see how you can just build lots of features, but with regards to the go-to market, it's not clear for me. So we don't want to raise. So I would put it differently. Like, I think it would make sense for us to raise once we can for sure say that, like, if there is a flywheel where I can put $1 and get $3 of that, that's going to be a no-brainer raise for the sake of raising, and then, like, I don't know what, scale our team because investors are telling us that we need to have more features. We don't want to do that. So that's my philosophy.
That's a really cool view, because obviously, most of the founders would just go and raise if they can, right? And I think it's very refreshing to also see that kind of approach where you really actually, asking yourselves like, hey, if I get that amount of dollars, like, can I really get a good ROI on it, right? Instead of just like building features and hoping that those features will convert into something. But at the same time, the question comes is, what do you think would have to happen for BlueDot to like completely take off, right? Like, what do you think would have to happen externally in the market or within the company or with whatnot, just for the company to really become, sort of start growing really like crazily fast, and just so you would potentially see that moment where you need external capital or more resources to really speed up and accelerate?
We just need to continue shipping cool features that our customers are looking for, experimenting with go-to-market strategies. And as I said, like, once we figure out one of the go-to-market strategies that we know for sure is scalable, not maybe without the limits, but with the very high limits, then we will raise. So it just should be this moment, right? That, like, I
And
know
what are
that.
your go-to-market strategies now then? So what are you doing, or like what is the most successful way of getting new customers now? Is it,
So
as you said, like product-led efforts or mix?
it is product led right now. So most of our customers are coming through word of mouth. And at the beginning, we did lots of manual work trying to get first kind of customers. We were like lots of outreach on Slack channels, on LinkedIn, on like Reddit. Like I was doing different I was like trying everything, and my co-founder, like all type of content, and that allowed us to build this critical mass of users that, like, right now we basically they recommend to other friends, and it grows. But it
Do you
grows,
have like a
but I'm not
referral?
sure how.
Do
Yeah,
you have a
referral,
referral
like
program?
we don't actually have a referral program. That's something we're building right now. We have an affiliate program, which is different, but yeah, we'll have a referral program. And it's just that people, like in one company, someone starts using, they share, hey, check out this tool, and other 3 5 people sign up. So that works. But I wouldn't say that if we right now get, I don't know, $2 million, we can immediately like push it to become, like, I don't know, from 1 million, like 3 million, because we'll invest into this, into product-led growth. So we just need to figure out the channel that growth exponentially, and then we'll raise.
Makes sense. And definitely there's one question that I think a lot of people ask you, and I hope it's fine to ask, right? But, this no bot thing, because I guess, a lot of people wouldn't want to know that the meeting is recorded, right? So how do you handle that?
There is a notification. So when you start the recording, we ask you if you want to notify the participants. Then you select if you want to notify or not. And there are lots of right now new bot-free recordings on the market that are for Mac. They're working on Mac app, like there are like already like 5 or 10 on the market. So all of them are not notifying for sure. We have the option to notify. And when companies buy bulk subscription, so we have a few like enterprise customers, for them in admin panel, admin can select that they want notification being like a default, so you can't change it. So we allow people to, they make the decision if they want to notify or not.
Makes sense. That's a good approach, I think. And how do you overall see that? Like, how do people feel about meetings? Having bots or meetings being recorded. Like, has this? Do you see sort of like evolvement in that type of approach, or like how do you generally see it? Because I personally at first obviously was like, oh, what is this thing, right? Like dialing in, or like why is someone recording? But now it seems to become just much more common, right? So I wonder, how's your view on that?
It's common. So I would tell you, like, the problem with bots is not that people want to record without others knowing it or something. That it's more that, like, with these bots, you have less control, like with regards to when the recording starts, when the recording finishes. Many people are annoyed that these bots are joining all the calls, or sometimes you go sign up for this product, then you log out, and it still joins your meetings. Like, it's very hard because look, we recently introduced bot as well. I told you, even like we have this bot. I don't personally use it, not because I like every time I record the meeting with clients, I use I notify and I always ask before starting the recording, but I don't use our bot because I'm so used to this bot free experience because it's so frictionless. You click start the recording, it immediately records. You leave the meeting, it immediately opens the link to the recording. You're not going to get this experience with bot because for bot, it takes time to go on the backend, transcribe, then send back information. It just takes more time. And I don't like this friction, and our customers just like it. So there are people who don't care about bots, which is fine, but there are people who enjoy bot free experience.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, I have to try myself because I think it really does sound like a better experience generally. Given that it's hard to sort of control the bot, which meetings it joins, or like sometimes you choose it not to join a meeting and then you want it to join a meeting and you have to figure out how to like dial it in, and there is some friction. I agree, right? And then if you have a bot in the meeting and you're like, it's like, hey, this meeting actually I don't need to record it, like whatever, right? And yeah, you need to kick out the bot. It just creates that type of like, what are you doing, right? kind of feeling. Yeah. Um, cool. And you mentioned a little bit on like Reddit and Product Hunt, and so how successful has that been for you? Like this is obviously something a lot of founders are trying as an early go-to-market motion, but it's first of all it's hard to get through the noise there, and secondly, like how durable is the impact of those kind of um, actions?
Good question. So I spent around like 3 to 5 months trying to crack Reddit, Hacker News, indie. I think it's called Indie Hackers or Hacker. Yeah, Indie Hackers. And on two of them, I would say I was quite successful. So on Indie Hackers, 4 or 5 of my articles got on the main page, like lots of likes, lots of comments, but no sales from it. Like no sales, absolutely, because the crowd there is like super early stage wannabe entrepreneurs who check out stuff and like probably thinking what to start as a next venture. They don't actually buy your product. So that's first when I just realized that we don't want to continue doing that. Then the Reddit took me more time, lots of hacks. Probably around four. I made a post actually on LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube video I recorded sharing my Reddit story. So with Reddit, I got as well like 4, 5, 6 posts that got viral. Some of them with link to the product, and nothing. No one bought the subscription. Maybe like a few people, but honestly, like very low. And it's not consistent. You have to all the time think about it. And there are these admins of the channels that can just block you, and that's it. So Reddit, no. Indie hackers, no. What else I was saying? Hacker News. So Hacker News, I couldn't crack. Like they just blocked one of my posts like immediately. Then I tried a few more times, but it's hard on
But
Hacker
I
News. You
think
have to
it's
be
the same generally. Like it gives you a lot of traffic. So actually, even
yeah.
yesterday I wrote an article and put it on Hacker News, and it took off. But it didn't end up like
Nice.
driving traffic for our website because it was also published on
Yeah.
like external website. And it was not directly related to what we do, right? But like
Yeah.
people don't go the deep. Like they only talk about the subject matter of the discussion, right? And that's why I'm also asking because I feel like it can give you like a big traffic spike on a day
Yeah.
or on a week, but it doesn't really convert. It doesn't seem to be durable. That's why I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, what's been your experience like?
Yeah, and like I think your product is much better kind of designed for Hacker News audience. I know one guy who's a friend of mine whose startup is technical as well. They're like building something in API space, and it's basically they publish around 20 different posts on Hacker News, and like 7 or 8 of them got to the first page, so they got lots of traffic. For him, I'm not sure how it works in terms of like getting revenue, because their product is how it's called when you share the code with everyone, when you open no, not open API, open source, sorry, open
Right,
source.
open source. Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
sorry.
have an open source product which I think is kind of like better designed for Hacker News audience, because this
Oh
engineers
yeah,
then
of
can
course.
go check
Yeah,
your tool. Yeah.
of course.
So he hacked it in a good way, and it works for him.
Yeah.
For us, it's not. So Product Hunt was good. So surprisingly, Product Hunt was good. We had two launches on Product Hunt for BlueDot. Both of them brought leads, brought customers, but the main advantage is that it brought mentions by other large newsletters. So after each Product Hunt launch, we got mentioned by I think it's like some top AI newsletter which has like millions of subscribers. I forgot the name, and it brought like really lots of traffic, like 700 to 800 clicks. Then from them, like high conversion rate. So that's the advantage of Product Hunt if you get to the first, second, or third.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because indeed the other ones they don't seem to be converting for a lot of people, right? I think it's also as you said, specific to what you do. I think open source products generally tend to, you know, get more attention, but then again, like it's the same thing. If your product is open source, you get attention and people might start using it, but then how do you make them pay for it, right? Because then if it's open source, it's open source, right? So then it's there's a lot of software, especially in the cloud infra space, right? That's open source, and a lot of databases, and they do get good traction, but then monetization is still still a challenge. So I think it's eventually it still comes down to building a product that people really really need and want and are willing to pay for, right? So I think like any shortcuts, I think all of the discussion is like shortcuts can help you here and there, but they're not going to make it work collectively for you, right?
Yeah, and like honestly, because I work I live right now in Düsseldorf and work here from the local co-working space, and there are a few people I know here who are building like very niche products for very specific audience for German market. They don't do any of this like hacks and other stuff. They just do like cold outbound and cold calls. Man, this guy's like making already over 1 million, and I saw how they grew from nothing when I joined in a year and a half. Once they figure out how they position and so on, it just grows through this old school approach. So all channels work. It depends on your product. That's what I realized as well. Like depends on the product, depends on your audience, but all channels work. All of this stuff like, hey, cold calls are dying, like emails are dying, bullshit. Like
Yeah,
bullshit for sure.
I mean, if the product works, all channels work, and then it's just a matter of funnel, right? Like one channel is going to be more successful than the other, but I think if none of the channels work, then probably you have a
Yeah, yeah,
problem with the product, right?
yeah, yeah. So I guess the learning here as well is that at the beginning, if you don't know which the channel, just try all of them. And the idea is that try to get your first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 customers or clients or users who will use your tool and maybe ready to pay, ideally ready to pay. If you can find these people, like for me, this was when 10 people bought subscription to BlueDot without me like begging them to buy subscription. I realized them, like people are ready to pay. For me, that was the conviction. We can get from 10 to 100 and then from 100 to 1,000. So that's what should you do.
Great. So we need to wrap up slowly. I typically have those two questions that I ask everyone. The first one is, what are the most valuable resources that you resort to when you're looking for some sort of inspiration or knowledge, about the space you're in? So how do you sort of get basically the knowledge about the market and about the products in the market and about people and what's happening and so on?
Yeah, good question. So I would say that I love to watch YouTube videos, and if there are some founders who documenting their journey and are quite open about what they're sharing, I like to watch it. And at the beginning, when we had nothing, I was following until like a certain point. I was following quite closely around 5 to 10 different like bootstrappers, indie hackers on Twitter, and I like that they have like this indie hacking community. They have this approach of like sharing everything, like their go to market, trial and errors, and I just loved like reading it. And yeah, now kind of now Twitter is like all about very political about Musk, Trump, and stuff. But I remember like before, exactly like 1.5 years before, it was like less like that. And I saw a lot of posts from these founders when they would share their journey. For me, it was very inspirational.
And I think it's always great when someone sort of builds in public, because otherwise you just keep hearing only the good stuff, right? When someone fundraise, and then someone like is very successful and they went to a conference, but you don't really hear that kind of things that don't go well, right? And I think those are the most valuable things typically, right? Because that's where you learn. And I think it's with all the social media, it's like that, right? Like on Instagram, you just don't see people like posting the stuff that just when they don't go to holidays, right?
Yeah, true. And I mean, and I think in VC founders world in particular, and because we raised a little bit as well, you think differently about posting your wins and losses. Like you want to project success because you want to raise the next round. And this like Bootstrap founders, they don't care. They don't have anyone to
Yeah,
report to, so
right.
they just share.
There are some founders that are VC funded and even put their like investor updates in public to some extent. There's like minority, and I cannot recall the specific names because I haven't been following closely, but I've seen that. But
Nice.
it's a vast minority, right? Because you sort of
Yeah.
want to protect your
Yeah.
information and you want to have leverage, right? But to be honest, I think if things go well, I mean, or like generally, if you have interesting stuff to share, and if you're honest, I mean, there are investors that will also appreciate it, right? Because people are tired with bullshit, right? Like everywhere, like you can see it, like in all kinds of things, right? And eventually, if you can get down to what matters fast, I think, and show it just in a simple words, like people appreciate it, right? So yeah, I mean, maybe there's also a space for it, right? I would love to follow you if you ever decide to build in public as well. And the second question is, the second closing question is, what is the most exciting thing happening out there in the space you're operating in?
I think the most exciting is that like if you look like 2 years ago when open like two and a half when OpenAI kind of gave access to their API, like I remember how shitty were summaries, like absolutely non-readable, didn't make sense. Then in a year, they got better, but they were like quite expensive, so unit economic didn't work. But the summaries were already better, but still not like I personally didn't like that much the quality of the summaries. Year passed, like price is super cheap, like much cheaper than a year ago. The quality is much higher, and you already can rely on the summaries. I honestly can't believe I can imagine, but still what will happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years in terms of the accuracy of the summaries, of the understanding of AI, the topics, of its ability to create for you tasks which are accurate. So I really like, for example, I finish sales call, I don't need to go and create a task or go to our summary and then copy the task, and then like all of that can be done on the background. We finish the call, it sends you update, it creates the meeting invite or like follow up, all of that automatically. So it's all about our conversation, and everything done is done on the back end. That would be such a great relief. So that's where I see the future. All admin work automated. It's all about human communication one on
Yeah,
one.
that sounds like an amazing future, right? And you can just really focus on talking to that other person, right? And also like how much better those online meetings would be than actually the in-person ones, right? I mean, I'm sure there are tools also to apply the same things for an in-person meeting. You can do, I mean, all you need to do is just record it, right? But at the same time, I think the online experience will really start becoming sort of superior, right? Like you'll still need a human touch, but it sounds like amazing. And I'm also impressed with a lot of those tools that I've been using, right? And they really make things easier. And it's just hard to think that like 5 years ago you wouldn't even think of those things existing, right? And you were doing this all manually, and just now feels like so much work, right? And so much burden. So yeah, that's I think an exciting future. All right, Russ, we're gonna wrap up. I mean, is there anything else you'd like the audience to learn about you, or know about BlueDot?
I mean, nothing. I think I shared everything. I really appreciate you inviting me
I'm
to this
sure it's not
podcast.
everything.
I hope, I hope you will try the tool yourself.
I
So
will.
then, yeah, and yeah, like for everyone, I don't know. It depends on which part of the journey they are. If you're just starting or looking for that, just do it, and then you'll figure it out for sure. And if you're already doing that, just keep building and use BlueDot for your sales meetings.
Awesome. So basically the easiest way is just to go to your website, and we're going to link it up in the show notes, and just try for free, right? And if you like it, start paying and then start having a great meeting experience.
Yeah.
All right, Russ, pleasure having you. All the best building, and till the next one. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. Cloud Frontier is brought to you by Simpliblock, an intelligent database storage orchestrator. Get more IAPS and lower latency for your databases in the cloud. Visit our website at simpliblock.io for more information.